My name is Miss Leanne. How are y'all?
Good.
Okay. Today we're going to talk about peeps. These are peeps. Any of y'all know what peeps are? You ever gotten those in your Easter basket before? Yes? Okay.
Never.
Today we're going to talk about several different things and several different vocabulary words. We're going to see if they float or if they sing. Okay? Now the purpose of our experiment with these peeps is to use the scientific method in order to determine if peeps marshmallow treats float or sink in different liquids. We're going to talk about the different liquids in a minute. Okay? Experiment materials. For our experiment, we'll be using plastic cups, Peeps marshmallow treats, water, soda, laundry detergent, vinegar, and our hypothesis worksheet. Okay? Now before we get started, we need to talk about some terms that y'all are going to hear throughout this experiment. I'm going to ask some volunteers what they think a word means when I ask you the different words. And y'all can raise your hand and tell me, and then you're going to get a sheet with all of your vocabulary terms on it. And we'll talk about those in a minute. Okay? Now, what do you think buoyancy is? Ever heard the word buoyancy before? No? What's your guess?
It's a boy in sea.
Close. Okay, buoyancy refers to the tendency or ability of something to float in water or air or another fluid. Did y'all know that air is a fluid?
Yeah.
Air is a fluid.
No.
Okay? What about infer? Hint, it does not need to be in an animal's fur. Okay, yes, sir.
It's like to tell more details about something.
Okay, very close. It's an educated guess. Solving by guessing. Okay, what about inquiry?
Oh goodness.
No clue? Okay. Inquiry is seeking truth, information, or knowledge by questioning something. Okay, what about investigate? I know y'all are smart cookies and y'all know what investigate is. Yes, ma'am. To find out something, to examine or study or inquire to figure out what something is. Okay, what about observe? What do you do when you observe? Yes, ma'am. Yeah, you watch something. You notice or perceive something and register anything that you find significant. Okay, what about measuring? What do we do when we measure? Yes, sir.
See how long something is.
Okay, when we measure something, we measure the size, capacity, or quantity of something to be determined. Okay? Now what is a scientist? What is a scientist? Yes, sir, what is a scientist?
Somebody who like studies different things. Science and
Yeah? Okay? A scientist is an expert in science, or a person who is studying science who has expert knowledge in that. Okay? Has anybody ever heard of the scientific method?
I've heard of it.
You've heard of it? What do you kind of think it is? What do you think we use it for?
It's
Yes, sir?
guessing.
Huh?
Guessing.
Kind of. Yes, ma'am.
Like it's like the method they usually do.
Uh-huh. It's the method you do throughout an experiment, okay? Now I'm going to pass these out. Y'all can see. They're very Easter themed because we're very, very close to Easter. What day is Easter on?
Sunday. I'm gonna be at the beach.
Very cool.
Beach Easter egg hunt. We get food. I'm gonna be. Let's do a neighbor thing. I'm gonna be my cousin. You're gonna be. I thought you were gonna be in the beach. 12.
You can ask.
My family doesn't. That's so cool.
Happy birthday.
Everything is Easter.
Very cool. I wish my mom did that. They don't do that anymore because now I'm old. Okay, so your vocabulary sheet that you have has all of this on here. All of our essential vocabulary we'll need for our experiment. Okay? question. That's our first step. We question, so we wonder. We have to have something that we're thinking about, that we're questioning, that we come up with first. Our hypothesis, something that we think about. So it's what we're thinking about goes along with our question, okay? Our experiment, what we see, what we observe, that O word that we talked about, okay? Observations, when you were observing, what did you discover? What did you find out when you were doing your experiment? And then your conclusion. I know from your observations in that portion, it's going to be what you learned, what you found out from doing that experiment. Okay, so for our experiment, how we're going to apply the scientific method, our question is going to be, will peeps sink or float in water, vinegar, soda, and laundry detergent? Okay, we have all of those things over here on our table. Okay, your hypothesis is going to be, I think the peep will sink or it will float in this liquid because. Okay, now our liquids here, some of them are very kind of watery, very loose, but some of them are a lot thicker. Okay, so that'll help us kind of determine and question whether or not it's going to float. Because the density, what is density? You know what density is? Yes, ma'am? Yeah, kind of like the lightness and heaviness of something that has to deal with weight, okay? Okay, for our experiment, we're going to place our peeps in each different liquid in a clear cup, okay? And observations, we're going to watch to see if the peeps sink or if they float in each liquid. And then our conclusion is going to be our final results of the experiment that we will record. So we're going to write it down. And your hypothesis will either be proven or disproven. What is proven and disproven? Yes, sir?
Well, proven is when you think of something and then you show it and say that is proof. But if it's disproven, that means you say something but it's not really, you don't really have any proof.
So what is right and what's wrong? What we did that was correct and what we did that maybe wasn't so spot on, okay? Now it's time for our experiment. So each plastic cup is going to be filled with a different liquid. Cup A is going to be water, cup B is going to be soda, cup C is going to be vinegar, and cup D is going to be laundry detergent. First, before I do that, I'm going to pass out your worksheets, okay? Now, I know the word worksheet sounds scary, but all you're going to be doing is writing your hypothesis on this, okay? And we're going to talk about it and go over it. So go ahead and put your name on it once you get it. Megan, could you pass these out while I'm setting up? Thank you. Okay, now while I finish setting up, I want you to think about on your worksheets, it says for part 1, write your hypothesis under each heading. Do you think they will sink or do you think they will float in the following liquids and why? Okay, what did we talk about a hypothesis was? It's going to be something you think will happen. Okay, when you write it down, it's important that you give your reasoning. What do we do when we reason? why? Why do we think so? Why do we think it'll sink or float in the different liquids? Okay, because our different liquids that are up here, we also have water, but we have vinegar. That's pretty loose, isn't it? In our little container.